Yes, folks, it's Thursday. I think I got all the buttons pushed. I'm Fred McMurray, which means this has to be. Well, Elizabeth, how are we doing today?
We're doing well. How are you doing? We're kind of missing a few people, but we've got it covered, right?
As far as I can tell, we got it covered. All the buttons got hit that should have gotten hit. And, we're moving along, other than the fact that we're missing Kristin and we're missing Ray and we're missing David. So we're missing a whole lot of folks, aren't we?
Yeah, but they're out for good reason. Kristen's off to Vegas for a wedding and a birthday celebration. Ray is celebrating his anniversary with his wife. David's busy, I think, getting the joint chiropractic stuff training done. So everybody's busy little bees, but the old standbys are ready to get through the show and make it a good one.
Well, we can only hope. Interesting. You
Yeah.
mentioned you mentioned something there about
What's that?
birthdays, and since we are
Hmm.
in word on the street, we've had a couple of birthdays, have we not?
We have. Kristen had her big 5-0.
You can see Kristin with her alien. Yes.
Yes. And you give us the next one.
And that's our technical producer, Heidi, who's never heard, never seen, but throws a mean stapler when she's annoyed. So,
As she should. I'm a
as she
fan of
should.
that.
Should we? Are we going to have everyone sing "Happy Birthday"?
Last time we tried that, it was really offensive, I think, to the ear. So I think that we should just give them a good hearty happy birthday to both of them and thank them for all their hard work on the show. And leave it at that so that we don't hurt anybody's, inner ear.
Well, that's boring. If we were going to inflict it on other folks, we should
And then I
inflict it on.
nominate you to sing the song. How about that?
I was put under strict orders, something like 40 years ago by my kids, never to sing in public. So I always beg off because, like I said, don't want to incite an insurrection.
That's your story. You're sticking to it, right?
Hmm. And given that, as far as I can tell, one of my kids has just started watching just this minute on Instagram. I can't violate that,
You
pledge.
would be caught red-handed, right?
Correct. All right. So, happy birthday, Heidi. Happy birthday, Kristen. Enjoy. All right. So we're back. So what's word on the street today?
So word on the street, as we're wrapping up 2021, which had a little more COVID presence than we thought it would when we ended 2020. Entrepreneur Magazine's put out an article with the hottest franchise categories of 2022. So we were going to give a little shout out to Entrepreneur and chat about some of the things that they've got listed, which are pretty interesting. There were categories that did well in 2020 with the pandemic, which were clearly things like cleaning and restoration. Those did really well. Some health and wellness, some essential businesses, senior care. Go ahead.
So did you said cleaning and restoration? Does
Yep.
that include like our guest today?
I think it does. Yeah, we're going to have to talk to him about how they did in the pandemic. Some people really went gangbusters with all of the essentials that needed to be done and cleaned and updated and cleaned out and all those things. So, but for 2022, they're looking to add some businesses that are things that people want to get back to. So they're expecting really good growth in salons and spa services and personal care, education and enrichment as kids get back into school, and we're in less and less of a virtual space. So there are a lot of businesses that are anticipated to do well just because people are sick of not being able to go to them. So that's positive. That's positive for all of those industries that had to shut down. I think eating out is going to be bigger again, now that we're all much more able to do that safely. So 2022, I'm hoping, will be what we thought 2021 would be in terms of recovery. Thoughts, Fred?
What can I say that's reasonably politically correct?
Well,
Probably
I don't know that that's
nothing.
ever stopped you before, so.
I know it's never stopped me before. I don't think my personal belief, and has been for the last year and a half, is that we're never going back to what people thought was normal.
No, I don't think that we are either. And I know that we have some variants coming down the path. And so I think that the skills that we all learned in adapting to being virtual or hybrid or in person or out of person, I think we're all going to become a lot more nimble at making those transitions, I hope. I hope we have to do them less and less, but I do think it's a new normal. And I think the skills that we've all learned during this process are going to benefit everybody going forward, because they're going to have to.
Or not. I don't know. Whatever.
Don't be a negative Nelly, Fred. We're going to go with the
Why
positive.
should I
We've all
stop
learned,
now?
and we all know how to navigate this new world that we're living in. The end.
All right, fine. What else we got on the street? Anything else?
Well, the December issue launched last week, so if you have not checked that out, go on pillarsoffranchising.com and check it out. If you would like to see that every time that it comes out and see our newsletter, that should be on the pillarsoffranchising.com. There's a contact form and a pop-up that you should receive. So stick your email in there, sign up for all the things that you're interested in to do with Pillars of Franchising, and we will get information to you promptly. We definitely want to get you subscribing so that we can let you know all the big changes that we've got coming up in the next year.
So people can sign up on the site to get the magazine. What about signing up for a mentor?
Yeah, so if you are looking for a mentor in the coming year, we have our $1 Million Mentors, 4 of them, who have found great success in franchising and want to help you do 2 things. 1, buy a franchising if you're looking to buy. Number 2, help you find success once you have made that decision and made your purchase, and you need some help along the way making some good decisions and avoiding some pitfalls that they have been through. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can rely on the people who have already done it. So that's another thing. You can also become a sponsor. We've got a great reach. We've got great exposure for you. So if you would like to be included in our newsletter each month, if you want to be on the website on a routine basis, if you want to help us provide some content, sponsorship is a great way to do that. And there's a spot on the contact form for that as well.
Now you lost me, but okay, that's fine. Just thinking about the mentors. So people that want to buy or are interested in buying a franchise, they can sign up to get a mentor to help them buy?
Yes, absolutely.
What's that going to cost me? So I finally decide I'm going to buy that UPS store. I got to go out, or maybe a junkyard franchise.
The JDog Junk Removal and Hauling. Yes. Let's just say that you want to buy a JDog franchise brand, then you need a mentor to help you navigate that process. There is no cost to you to reach out to us to help you do that. So if you sign up and you want some help, put your name and email in there, and then we will get back to you right away to help you find the perfect fit franchise.
There's no charge for the mentoring.
Not for if you're looking to buy, there is no charge.
What brilliant genius came up with that idea? I mean, really. So, if you're listening on Blog Talk Radio or on our Shoutcast server, you can dial in at 323-580-5755. That's 323-580-5755. And one of our birthday people, was going to say birthday girl, but that would get me shot. Birthday people will talk to you in the green room and get you on the show. So shall we bring our guest on?
We absolutely should. So today, we've already mentioned his business. We've got Kevin Kopa. I'm going to give you a little intro to Kevin as Fred brings him on. He's got a bachelor's degree in professional studies from Westchester University. He's got 10 and plus years of leadership and operations experience to his role at JDog. He is responsible for operational strategy and all franchisees. He helps them select and define a territory, implement technology, support for all aspects of the business. He also served as a squad leader in the Marine Corps Infantry for 6 years, overseeing the training, health, and daily operations of his unit. Did 2 deployments to Iraq to support Operation Iraqi Freedom. And that is a very strong value of the brand that he's a part of JDog. Recycle. Sorry, my brain is just all of a
So
sudden
now
left
we
me.
know what.
But of JDog Junk Removal and Recycling. And
we know what
so Kevin, that was a bumbling of your company name, but welcome to the show, and I'm excited to talk to you about all that.
So now I'm assuming, before I was thinking the J stood for junk, but now, as Elizabeth reminded me, you're a jarhead, mother bleep. So the J stands for jarhead, doesn't it? Or junk?
Well, not quite. It stands for Jerry. Our CEO and founder was a wire dog in the Army, and his first name being Jerry, so JDog was born.
Right. That's a perfect combination of his, like, what call sign. What do they call it in the Marines?
Well, that was his nickname, I guess. I mean, like, the title would be your MOS, is your job, your occupational specialty.
So, Kevin, I think this is a really neat business model. You're heavily focused on veteran ownership. As the franchisor who's a veteran, he hires all veterans. Is that right?
So the franchise system, we only award franchises to veterans or immediate family members. So it's kind of like USAA. So I think right now we're at 87% veteran and about 13% immediate family members. So you might have somebody whose father served or whose kids are in the service. And here at HQ, I think we're about 50-50. So it's hard to be exclusive to veterans because it's just such a small portion of our population these days, unfortunately. But yeah, as much as possible here at HQ, and all our franchisees do their best to hire veterans as much as possible.
So tell me, and we've had some other guests on who have talked about the importance of setting for veterans up in business ownership, and that's not something that is always considered. They have a lot of recruiters come out from corporate jobs to recruit people exiting the military, but fewer are aware of business opportunities to become business owners. So why was that so important to Jerry as a franchisor?
It was important to Jerry because he lived it. He got out of the Army, and none of his skills were really easily transferable into civilian workplace. He got into retail after he bounced around for quite a while, and then he's very entrepreneurial. So he had started a number of other businesses before JDog, and when he started JDog, he used the name JDog, but it was not advertised as military. He started here in the King of Prussia area, just outside of Philadelphia, and I think like 2 weeks in, and this is 10 years ago, one of his customers commented on how he was just on time, he was clean cut, he was very professional, yes sir, yes ma'am, which you just don't see from a lot of service-based industries these days. And they asked where that came from, and he said, well, you know what, it probably goes back to my days in the Army. And she said, you really need to advertise that, because I think customers would be more attracted to hiring a veteran if they knew you were a veteran. And I think, it was 2-3 weeks into the business, and he went to his wife and said, I think we need to rebrand a little bit and just change our marketing. And that kind of was the precipice for everything that followed. So they did it for 3 years, and then realized they had something that, is a very easy business to, duplicate. So they decided they could have a real impact on the veteran unemployment rate, which at the time was 5 or 6%. So they started JDog with the mission of getting the veteran unemployment rate less than 1%.
That's amazing. And what a great goal. And I do think that when people are aware of military service, they tend to choose businesses who have some kind of connection. You know, my dad was in the Navy, and he ended up being a lawyer after that, and he hung his flight suit and his helmet thing on a hat rack in his office because we lived in Pensacola, and it started conversation, and people immediately felt that connection if they had any kind of connection to the military. So I think that something like that is an incredible marketing tool, and an incredible mission to help those people coming out of the military find their footing.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, the whole idea of JDog is if a customer is given the opportunity to hire a veteran or not a veteran, you know, 9 times out of 10, hopefully they choose the veteran. And among veterans, it doesn't matter what service or branch. I mean, we all pick on each other from, you know, Army to Marines and Air Force and whatnot, but there's a camaraderie because everybody is fighting in the same fight. And I'm really feel lucky in working here that I get to work with all kinds of veterans every day. And, you know, a lot of them, you know, we have many franchisees that they were in the, you know, Army for 20 years, and this is only their only second job or career in their whole life.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit, we kind of skipped over the JDog business model and exactly what it is that you do. And I love the fact that you do include a lot of recycling and sustainability in what you do, because I think that's another great selling point for you guys. So give us a little bit of background on that, and tell us who, outside of being a veteran, who is your ideal franchisee that you're looking for?
Sure. So JDog started about 11 years ago. Jerry and Tracy ran the business here locally for 3 years before they started franchising. So we've been franchising for 7 to 8 years. It is a, you know, focus on any kind of cleanup. We'll come and take away your sleeper sofa if you got a new one, or, you know, we clean out full warehouses. We'll do porter service work where we clean parking lots and things like that. We have a lot of franchisees that are getting into renting dumpsters and things along those lines. And we also have a second franchise system now, carpet cleaning and floor care. So, and they're going to be getting into janitorial services as well. So we've only been doing that for about going on 3 years now. So the ideal candidate, I've been thinking about that one because I know that was going to be something we talk about. And it's tough because unlike a lot of franchise systems, our marketing is very unique, and we only really target veterans that are looking to franchise. And we have everything from people that were in the Army for 20 years and get into JDog, or they might have been, you know, Jerry was in the Army for 2 years and then in the National Guard for a couple of years, and then, you know, worked retail for 20 years before he got into JDog. So we have many different successful franchisees with a lot of different backgrounds. And what we find, it's easy to teach you how to do junk removal. It's easy to teach you how to do the marketing that we do. So we need people that are outgoing and not afraid to go and talk to people. And one thing that veterans in general are generally pretty bad at is using their veteran status to their advantage.
Yeah.
Nobody that I know got into the military to help them later in life, but recognizing that is, you know, a powerful tool to use to your advantage in the future. And, you know, whether it's standing up at a Chamber of Commerce meeting or a B&I group and just starting with that veteran fact, it kind of gets everybody's attention and gets their focus a little bit quicker. So I think that is really the important thing that we need in prospective franchisees, is somebody that wants to go out and talk about their service and help others. Because you mentioned the sustainability aspect of things, not just recycling and scrapping as much as they can, but we have franchisees that have storage fronts selling the things that they pick up, and they donate the proceeds to certain charities. So it's very cool to see the community that we've created within the brand, and everybody's very much about giving back. We have franchisees that go home to their, you know, home city and realize that now that I'm a veteran trying to conduct business, I notice that there's not a lot of other veterans doing this. So they'll start their own veteran-based networking groups and things like that, and they kind of become the hub in their own town when it comes to veteran networking and stuff like that.
So let's have some fun. Um, One of my, I guess you'd say one of the heroes I have, once said that the Marine is the ultimate killing machine in the U.S., or the United States Marine is the ultimate killing machine. So given starting from that fact, how does that work well as a franchisee?
Interesting. Well, I think one of our mottos as Marines was adapt and overcome. And we always say we do less with more than the other services because we have a smaller number of Marines than any other branch, and we have a much smaller budget than most of the other services as well. So I think that, especially given COVID, I mean, everything changed. We're in a business where we come to your house, we come inside, and we're walking around touching your things, and that was something that was immediately made people uncomfortable. So to be able to kind of transition that to, we can clean out your basement if you just open the BOCO door. We can go in and clean that out without really having to interact with you and your family. If you have items in your garage, we can go in there and be in and out without, really causing any disturbance. So I would say to answer your question, the military background provides a great amount of leadership training and the ability to roll with the punches more than anything else. So I think those are the two qualities that lend themselves well to franchising for veterans.
Okay. So do you think veterans are better off being franchisees or starting their own businesses? I know buying a franchise is technically starting your own business, but there's a definite differential, as Jerry will tell you, from starting a business as opposed to buying a franchise. So do you think veterans are better off going the franchise route because of the order and structure, or they might be better off starting their own business? I have my own answer, but I figured I'd ask an expert.
Yeah, I generally think franchising is a very good option for veterans because they are used to structure, and also not just the structure of the franchise, but the ethos of brotherhood that we've created within the brand, I feel is really important. And I don't have franchising experience outside of this other than, other franchisors that I've met through JDog. But, we do a biweekly roll call, just open forum, everybody call in. We give them the opportunity to kind of ask whatever questions they want to or topics. And, we have a substantial part of our franchise base call in, and calls will go from it's a 8 to 9 o'clock call in the evening, and typically it starts at 7:30 because people call in early. And we had a trainee that was here last week, and they were on the roll call, and they came in the next morning because I logged off around 9:30, 9:45, and she said they were on until 1 in the morning, just talking about junk removal, best practices. And I think that's a lot of what veterans miss. And when they go into a civilian workplace, there's a missing chunk of shared experiences that all veterans have. This sucked going here, or I was stationed there, or I was a part of this, operation in this country, or we overlapped being at this base for whatever time. So that lends well to instant, friendship between franchisees and the veterans in the system. And I think that is the biggest thing that when the Discovery Day attendees come in, they can feel that. They can see how, we're close with everybody, how much they share amongst each other, and everybody genuinely wants everybody else to succeed. And there's no real competition within the system, which is really encouraging from my point of view. Everybody wants to help, and they all want to build each other up and encourage.
Okay, so now we'll go for a really technical question. As much as I'd like it to be about automatic weapons, I'll probably get something thrown at me if I ask it. So what I am going to ask, I love having vets on the show. They're my favorite.
Me too.
In order to get a JDog franchise, what's the cost I'm going to pay? Somebody wants to buy it and says, how much are they going to need to buy a JDog?
So right now, the franchise fee is $35,000 for your first territory. Next year, our FDD has been updated. It's going to go to $45,000 for your first territory. Territories are based on population, so we do zip codes around 200,000, give or take 10% in population. And then if someone wants to buy multiple territories, the price is scaled down, and we will stagger the openings so that it's not a huge upfront cost. Typically, to start, our franchisees are, in need of financing for 80 to 120, maybe 150,000, depending on how ambitious they are. The big expenses, other than the franchise fee, are really a truck, which you get a dump truck or a truck and trailer are both good options for our model. And then wrapping them. I don't know if you've seen, we have really cool camo wraps on all our vehicles with the big dog on the side. And a lot of those, you put a deposit down, but you don't need to buy that up front. And then insurance. We do have a requirement for about $3,000 spend in your opening marketing and grand opening, which has been tough to do these last 2 years, an actual grand opening. But franchisees have been successful nonetheless, because the service is really needed these days. So we found that during COVID, nothing's hurting right now.
Elizabeth, you want to take some questions before I come back?
So Kevin, you mentioned when we were getting ready for this interview that you wanted to talk a little bit about something kind of cool you've got going on with the Discovery Channel. You have a show on there called Operation Hidden Treasures. You want to fill us in on what that's all about?
Yeah, so this has been really exciting, and Jerry has been working on this for about 3 years. We were lucky enough to meet Jim Millio, who is the producer of the show. He was behind The Dog Whisperer and a couple other shows. He was a part of My Big Fat Greek Wedding, that movie. So very successful in TV and movie. And him and Jerry kind of sat down about 3 years ago and kind of came up with the idea of following our JDogs, kind of in the light of what American Pickers or Storage Wars are doing, and just seeing the interesting ways that we're able to repurpose and reuse the items from our jobs. So there were, we tried it here, we tried some funding and whatever, but it was really last year that we got all the funding together. We filmed in March, and I think episode 9 is going to be airing this Sunday on Discovery Channel at 8 a.m. This is an especially exciting episode because one of our big sponsors is Grunt Style, and they were kind enough to donate a custom Indian motorcycle that they had made for Grunt Style. So we're going to be auctioning that off as part of the TV show. All the proceeds will go to benefit the JDog Foundation and the Grunt Style Foundation. But it was a very fun process to be a part of the filming and see how they take, reality TV and the hauling and the jobs that they were, it seems like a disaster when they're on site and the guys are taking pool tables apart and the film crew's running around. And throughout the whole process, it came out as a very good show. The writers did a really good job finding some cool stories here in the Philadelphia area, and then they also filmed in San Antonio and Austin. So it started in October 10th. We did 10 episodes, so we have two more to air.
All right, so I have a question.
That's a cool thing, and what a great way to get some exposure.
Yeah, it's been really powerful, and I think the franchisees are feeling it. We're certainly feeling it here at HQ, and we've done just kind of sent this out to the franchisees, but they all have the opportunity to kind of send in a little audition video to the producer so he can pick the franchisees that will be a part of season 2. But we're hoping to start filming again in March and do season 2.
Wow, that's so exciting! Congratulations on that. That's pretty exciting. Yeah.
So that brings up that brings up one question, and then I have another question. So, what's the weirdest thing you found either on the show or just in general that clean up? Because I always love the bizarre,
When you say weirdest, you almost have to go categories because
there
are so many interesting stories. And I mean, from hoarder homes with, just things growing in the sink and newspapers from the 70s to people that had their own businesses. I was on a job here that somebody used to make like clay cast things. So they had a basement full of these really heavy form molds and stuff that they would make. One of our franchisees in Wisconsin got, it was an elephant foot table. So it was like
cool.
a table that would go beside a chair or something, but it was based on an elephant foot. One of our franchisees in Theo Proya, who's in Maryland, he just did a job where he got, I think, 20 pounds of ivory.
Wow.
That somebody had in a storage unit as a gift that when they went to Africa years ago. It really runs the gamut. The weirdest things, inappropriate and not. But it's amazing to go through people's homes, and sometimes it's after a loved one passes away and the children call us to come and clean out the whole house so they can sell the house or whatever, and it's like, oh wow, we found this, what do you want us to do with it?
All right, so then the next question is on a more mundane perspective, and I hate these questions, but you gotta ask, what are the top 3 regions, major metros, territories that you'd really like to expand in over the next 18 months?
LA is definitely the first. That's one market we haven't really saturated too heavily. And sorry, I'm turning around, but my map is over here. I would really like to get more into Chicago. We have one franchisee that has been in Lake Zurich and Elmhurst since I've been here, so about 6 years. But that's really our only exposure in Chicago. And then other than that, I think expanding in some of the Midwest cities like St. Louis, Indianapolis, and places like that.
Okay. So the other question I have is, you'd said you'd given numbers on what it would take to buy as well as some of the equipment. When should a franchisee, because usually it's not after the first year, it usually takes some time, but when do you think the first, how long of a period, let's try it that way, is it before a franchisee starts to be profitable?
So we are a flat royalty franchise. Okay. So we don't have the same reporting and item 19 disclosures in our FDD as a lot of franchises do. So I can't give specifics on that, unfortunately. But this past year, and with COVID and with our increased brand awareness, that it's taken 10 years to get to this point, but how strong the brand is now. Franchisees have been opening, in this last year, where I know of a number of franchisees that have been profitable within that first year. We have a lot of franchisees that are expanding and opening additional markets, adding equipment as much as possible. That's really been our biggest hurdle this year, and I think for the next year or so, it's hard to get vehicles. And we have franchisees we had one that came here today and picked up his dump truck to go home to the Canton market in Ohio, and he was supposed to open in September, and he just got his dump truck now. So we are, as much as possible, we're trying to get trucks and trailers and dump trucks and the hook and go for the dumpster trucks that we use. And we have a lot of franchisees existing that are expanding into new markets and stuff like this. So vehicles are our biggest hurdle. So that's really, if somebody comes into the system, we tell them, buy a truck as soon as you can so you can get open and start hauling junk.
Okay. So you mentioned what I believe is the greatest cure for insomnia known to mankind, the FDD. So since you brought that topic up, and at the risk of putting our viewers to sleep, what are the top 3 items in your FDD that you'd prefer people read first?
I think the flat royalty structure is very important. It really gives the franchisee the opportunity to, identify what they want their success to be, because we make a flat amount. If you go and do, $500,000 or $2 million, you pay us the same amount. So we're not, and we don't have marketing fee. So our strategy is very much teaching you how to market in your area and become the JDog of, your market, and become the veteran fixture within the business community that you live within. And instead of us taking your money and deciding how it's spent, we encourage and empower and train you how to do that on a local level. And then other than that, I would say, looking at those opening fees, it's important that somebody comes into this with operating capital and the funds they need to get up and running. And you can't start on a shoestring budget. So you need to be able to market, and you need to be able to spend that initial fee, and you need to be able to get a truck and insurance, and have employees. And on one of the podcasts I was watching to prepare for this, I think Elizabeth had mentioned, you really have to be marketing, because even when COVID hit, and new franchisees, you have to drive into their head, like, you need to start marketing, and you need to start before you're ready to haul junk. You need to be getting customers. You need to be acquiring them as soon as you're done with training. You need to start working.
So rather than go into a whole marketing rant, since Elizabeth will tell you, and Ray would, and Jerry would, that's one of my favorite topics. So we won't do a whole another show on marketing. I'll just give it to Elizabeth to ask her question.
All right. So Kevin, what do people who want to know more about JDog, what is the best way for them to reach you to get more information?
So on JDog.com, you can go to the form and fill out the entry form. That will start the process here. So you'll have an intro call with our sales team to make sure you're qualified, the area that you're interested in is available, and you meet our veteran requirement. And then, coming here to Discovery Day, I think, is the most important part, to really understand, the brand, the team here that supports you in your business and gets you up and running, and doing the due diligence of talking to the other franchisees throughout that process is very important, because, like I said, with the ethos of brotherhood, when you call a new franchisee, they're going to encourage you, they're going to tell you how they're doing, and they're going to be very transparent with those things. So, but if you go to JDog.com, there's a lot of information there, and you can fill out the form, and that kind of starts the process.
Great.
Or you can go watch our show on Sunday.
On Sunday, tune into the Discovery Channel, right?
Yeah, go to the Discovery Channel, watch the show. You can on demand the other episodes. So that really gives you a feeling of what kind of jobs you get into and how you're able to help people, because veterans go from serving the country, and now you're able to serve your community, and it's a powerful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. We'll certainly have you back. This has been a great interview. And I think all of us here really love the veteran aspect of it. It's meaningful to many of us and our families. So thank you so much for coming on, and good luck on the Discovery Channel season 2.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. And I look forward to watching more episodes.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, franchise owners. How's your local marketing? Do you feel like you could use some help keeping up with your social media posts and comments and reviews? Do you wonder if you could be doing more to attract local customers? Are you able to identify new movement in the local area? At Westvine, we help franchisees like you reach more local customers through digital marketing. With daily monitoring, creative content, and ad placement, and customer data intelligence, we'll get your business in front of the people who want your products or services. We also work with franchisors who need an agency to handle the digital marketing for all of their locations. If you're ready to reach more local customers, give us a call at 805-265-5440 or visit us at westvine.com. That's 805-265-5440 or westvine.com.
So Jerry.
So Elizabeth.
Good to see you.
You too. Did you notice I took it off of mute while we were on commercial, so I didn't start talking on mute like I usually do?
Well, and I did the same. I never turned mine on, so I think both of us got it this week. We're learning.
We're learning.
I'm learning. Yeah, it's mostly me.
Slowly.
So we are excited to talk to you today because you're going to talk about identifying the next big thing. And with your great clips experience and with the joint chiropractic that you just launched, I know that you always have your eye on the next big thing. So we want the scoop on how you identify what you think is going to be the next big thing that's successful for you and for others.
Sure. It's a great question. And of course, 3 years ago, I went through that with the joint, and it's exploding across the country. And so that turned into a really good decision. I had done it with Great Clips before, and I've helped others get into different ones on the same format. The first thing I do, Elizabeth, is I look to see what's going on in the world, the real world, if you will. If there's trends or fads or those kinds of things that are starting up out there, it's just a matter of time before somebody franchises it. So, somebody will be doing something as a little standalone business. Maybe they're doing it on the side, something like that. And they will realize that it's growing and it's getting momentum. Maybe they quit their job and go full time. And then they say, this feels like something that could explode beyond this. Maybe we should turn it into a franchise. Then they reach out to experts to help them actually, put an FDD together and a business plan and those kinds of things. So once that happens, then what you need to do is, in my opinion, I've identified it already. Then I start watching some of the industry, the franchising industry experts. So in other words, the entrepreneur top 500 that comes out every year. There's many other franchise magazines that have different rankings throughout the year. And I start watching those to see if that, new thing is showing up on there. And then depending on your comfort level, whether you're risk adverse or whatever, you may want to watch it for 2 or 3 or 4 years to see how it goes. If you really believe it's the right thing, you can get in right at the beginning. Generally, you can be an innovator. You can maybe get a larger territory. It might be a little less expensive. There's a lot of variables that go into it, but that's what I look for when I'm doing it. And some of my favorites, I look at edible arrangements. Now think about that. In 1999, when that started, it wasn't a thing. Nobody did anything like that. And it was a 16-year-old that bought a flower shop, and a few years later combined his love of fruit and his floral skills into doing that. And I would have thought, honestly, that was going to be a fad. And now look, it's exploded. They are wildly successful across the country. Everybody's copycatting them now. And who knows where it's going to go. So I missed that.
And I've interviewed Soumya, the daughter of the owner, who's now their digital strategist or vice president of digital strategy, and she was a really up and coming, amazing young woman. And the fact that they've co-branded, I think these are things to watch too. The fact that they've taken it from just fruit and they've partnered with people who are adjacent. So now they might have cookies or chocolates or whatever it is. I think they really came through the pandemic strong because of some of those strategic decisions. So I think when you watch them over time, that's when you start to see that they're going to be more than a fad, wouldn't you say?
Right. And somebody like that who has a main channel set up, and if they're looking around, they see some of those people that are edging into it by doing cookies and candies and nuts and those kinds of things. Well, you've already got the channel set up, so it's pretty easy to add that into yours and expand and just make your brand that much more successful, makes it more appealing as a franchise, probably a lot more revenue and profits generated. So it makes it easier to sell that franchise. So I look for those kinds of things. And there's a lot going on in the world right now, a fair amount of it driven by 2 things, COVID and aging.
Yeah.
So some of the newer things that are coming out that have, most of them been around for ages, but are turning into franchises now. If you look at, there's a whole segment on lab-based things now, whether it's testing for COVID, just general blood testing or those kinds of things. There's a wide range of those that are, I would say, I would put them in the emerging category as a franchisor, but some of them are going to grow really rapidly because people are very sensitive to that right now after COVID. We are an aging population. Yeah. So 2 things are springing out of that right now. Reverse aging franchises. anything that relate. Infusion is one of the big ones that's getting started right now, you know, where you're being infused on a regular basis with things that fight the aging issues that we've got. And then the last one related to aging is many of us don't want to go into a nursing home, maybe ever, but certainly nowhere than we want to. So, you know, the aging in place type of franchises are really taking off. Right behind that is, you know, care at home. And then I think the next one when it comes to that is the broad expanse of, you know, new age type nursing homes or specialized care type things. So I think really, you know, we talk about this every week and you guys all know how I roll. I don't think there's a better time to get into franchising, to buy a franchise. Right now, I think we've got the broadest expanse of innovative, cutting edge, new age type franchises out there where you can really kind of get in on the bottom floor and own a big segment of, you know, a state or a region or something like that. And because franchisors are looking for people, if they're kind of emerging, that will take a lot of franchises, a lot of licenses. So I don't know if I've ever seen a better time to get into something that a few years ago wasn't even a franchise.
Yeah. Well, and I want to ask your opinion real quick too, before we wrap up the education segment. We did an interview in our magazine with Ann Huntington Sharma, who talked about having to sort of, you know, fast track some of their online things that they had planned to roll out and had to do it much more quickly. And my sister is a teacher who was miserable. It was not a good time for teachers during the COVID pandemic. And so this, do you think education for people who are looking for a way out of that would be a good up and coming thing?
I think it's huge. I mean, look at children. You know, many experts say kindergartners and first graders got impacted for the rest of their life based on what happened during COVID, because those are the years when they learn team skills and working together and that kind of stuff. And you can't do that on a Zoom educational session. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of new franchises that come out of that. I think a lot of people want to work at home. And so they're taking additional education online so that they can, you know, be prepared for a job that they can do at home as opposed to going to the office. And I don't want to miss this rare opportunity to call out JDog because they're our guest, and, you know, anything to do with recycling in any format is turning into a franchise right now. And there is, I think that's a real emerging segment right now too, to go along with everything else. So kudos to JDog and what they do, and other people that are coming out with brands similar to that, maybe not in that specific category, but, you know, recycling other types of things. So I really think, Elizabeth, I am not kidding, I really think there's a ton of opportunities out there right now. And anybody thinking of leaving their job, starting their own business, or expanding, if they own multiple businesses right now and continuing to expand, a rare time in business history right now to take a look at some real cool things going on. Awesome.
Sounds great. Fred says we have a comment. So Fred, what kind of comment do we have?
Oh, it's a comment from me. So Jerry, are you really answering the Kristin question before it even gets answered or asked? I mean, seriously now, you got to wait till Elizabeth asks the Kristin question so we can get a side-by-side comparison. They do it
every week, so I'm all prepared for it, and I just integrate it into the discussion. Then it's simpler that way.
I think we just need a T-shirt for you that says it's always a good time. Then you just wear it around, right?
I like it. Thank you, guys.
I'd say more of Jerry. Should be more of a polo, not a T-shirt. I can't see Jerry in a T-shirt. Polo, well, you know, yes.
You can let him pick his style.
All right. So, you ready to go for a shout-out, Elizabeth?
Yeah, absolutely. So wanted to always remind you that we are a call-in show, so that you can call with your questions at any time, whether it's for our guests or our mentors. 323-580-5755 is the number. And then next week, tune in. We've got Mandy Rowe from True Rest Float Spa. Looking really forward to seeing and talking to her. She's got a really neat and interesting concept. So tune in next week, and we will have Mandy on the show. All right, so we have a new segment and a new regularly occurring guest on the show, Karen Kimsey Sword. We're excited to have her. She's from Dale Carnegie. We interviewed her last week, and she's got so much great advice going on that we wanted to have a segment with her each and every week that she's available. So this week, with David out, we're going to spend a little more time talking to Karen. So Karen, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing great. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Yeah.
So this week with you, we wanted to talk about brand ambassadorship. And I think with Kevin on the show, he's clearly a great ambassador for JDog, and being able to get that show out for them and build their brand recognition and their credibility. So what are some of your top tips for becoming your brand's ambassador?
It's interesting. I think, first of all, Kevin, thank you. Thank you for your service. I loved hearing your segment. I am an Air Force brat. My dad was in for 20 years. So I'm all about it. I'm going to spread the word about you guys. Absolutely. So that's part of it, don't you think? I mean, even just by me listening to him, as far as even their mission and just how they go about business, just gave me a very positive impression. And I think when we talk about being brand ambassadors, I think many times people talk about, brand, it's kind of like this high level thing. It could be some marketing. And many times we don't pay attention to the small things that really make the difference, with not only with our customers and with our employees and even future employees. Mm-hmm. And really about the small things. For example, I always talk about how I'm with Dale Carnegie, and a lot of what we do, it's about human relations skills. So I always have to make sure that we are living those principles all the time in any interaction, because if we don't live those principles, then it really goes against the brand. So I think it's really being aware of kind of what that is, what we stand for, and then how do we figure out how not only we as leaders can live it, but actually the people that work for us can live it too.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a true thing, because when you are presented with someone one way in a professional setting and then you bump into them out in the world and they don't match or align, there's something that makes you question their credibility professionally, don't you think?
Absolutely. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen, not just not with our company, but I've seen it happen where someone reports something and then I see them again in like a setting that's actually at the ball field, and you see something happen. It's like, whoa, they're not what I thought they were. And then you start questioning even doing business with them.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's rampant. And with social media these days, I've done some marketing work for companies where we get customers complaining on social that their truck was driving too fast down the road. They've got a picture of it with a number, which in terms of safety purposes is a good thing, because we can reach out and find out who that is. But in terms of reputation, it's not a good thing, because now they're like, look at this idiot driving, like, and now they've got a reputation for having, crazy drivers.
It is so true. It's interesting. I used to love this certain department store, and they were known for their customer service for years and years and years. They'd have the little wrapped packages. They were known for going above and beyond, even the way they handed you your bag after they would check you out. And about a year and a half ago, right before COVID, I happened to visit a couple of those different stores in a couple of different locations, and had a really interesting situation where the people weren't as nice. I felt as if they weren't attentive. And even when you'd ask questions, they didn't have knowledge. And then I got my, how they would used to wrap everything up. I just received it kind of plunked down in the bag. And it's interesting because they had purported this brand forever. They lived the brand for a while. And then all of a sudden you're seeing it a couple places where it didn't show up that way. I had an extremely negative viewpoint. I mean, I didn't go tell anybody, but I'm telling you guys now, I had a negative viewpoint of that. And then I find that the time that I spend in that store, when I am in that store, it's much less. So it really does impact, I think, buying patterns, loyalty in so many different ways.
So, and I wanted to get a couple of your top tips. I mean, one of the things I would say, to your point about that kind of brand ambassadorship, is when you go to Chick-fil-A and every single one time you go through the drive-thru and they say, my pleasure. And so now anytime I go to another restaurant, fast food drive-through, and they say my pleasure, I think, you worked at Chick-fil-A, didn't you? You started there, because that is so heavily ingrained in my brain as someone who has driven through millions of times with my kids. So one of the things I would say is consistency is incredibly important. But what are some other tips that you would give to people in franchising who are looking to really improve that brand?
Well, I mean, first of all, kind of know what it is. I mean, and can you really live it? And
Right.
part of that living piece is, you mentioned, first of all, making sure you know it, making sure that it's at if you want to call it behavioral level, with your employees, and say, okay, this is what this means. And you're right, with Chick-fil-A, friendly means, saying hello. Friendly means, so it's not just having these words, but really making sure we live the word. For example, if it's high trust, we're high trust, that's part of our brand. Well, high trust goes for its customers. So it's really, the second tip would be, it's got to be for your customers, it's the employees, it's future employees. So making sure that it's kind of more all encompassing as well. And I think that's really important. So it's that deliberate piece. I also think it's reinforcing, making that you keep it in front of people. And I think don't you think that's the Chick-fil-A and a lot of too, where it's like you have to keep it in front of someone time and time and time again, incorporating it into the training, incorporating into whether it's secret shopping, making sure that you have ways of reinforcing it.
Absolutely. So we're getting close to the end of the show here, but what are some no-nos that you would suggest people avoid doing in terms of customer service, marketing, and brand ambassadorship?
Okay, well, one thing I can always think of, it's platitudes, making it big picture, and then the employees are like, yeah, not really. And so they don't even know how to live it. And I think that happens so many times. And then that's where then they're going to go the opposite direction. The second one, a big no-no is if you can't live it as a leader. And, always talk about when somebody, mentioned the high trust. When a leader's like, oh, yes, we have high trust. We have high trust with our customers and everyone. And then the leader is saying to the secretary, the receptionist, lie to the customer for me, I'm not available, or whatever. So it's making sure that you're very congruent with what you're saying. So you're taking the lead for it. Those are a couple really big no-nos that I've seen.
Well, and they matter so much. I mean, when somebody thinks you're a hypocrite because you're a leader and you're not doing what you're telling your employees to do, those employees are not going to do the same thing. They're not going to project that to the customer. And then you're going to have this whole cycle of distrust, don't you think, going forward?
Absolutely. And then what happens too is you're exactly right with the social media. It starts up on Glassdoor, and then it shows up on Glassdoor, Indeed, all these different places. So then when you want to try to attract employees, then you can't attract the right type of person because you've kind of been dinged on all the different social media.
Well, and don't you think recovery from that is way harder than doing it right the first time, right?
Absolutely. So it's pay attention to those small things aren't so small.
Exactly. Well, Karen, thank you so much. We look forward to having you on the show frequently with all of your advice and tips. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on today and sharing all of your experiences.
Thanks.
And we look forward to seeing you hopefully next week.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, so we have had yet another good Pillars of Franchising show. We want to thank our guest, Kevin Kopa of JDog Junk Removal and Recycling and Hauling. To our $1 Million Mentors, we thank you. To those here and those not here, thank you so much for your time and energy each and every week. And if you're looking for a mentor, please go to pillarsoffranchising.com and fill out the form so that we can reach out to you and help you get that franchise. We are the Pillars of Franchising. We are here to be your resource for franchising success and make your dreams a reality. This has been Pillars of Franchising, and the dream starts here.
Semper Fi.